So in this video I'm going to show you a fast and easy and hopefully fun way to create minimalist phase music. Now if you're not totally sure what that is, I shall explain in a second, but this technique you can use, I think, in virtually any DAW worthy of the name. The main function or feature that you need is the ability to time stretch audio, which I think virtually every DAW has. Now, minimalist phase music, if you're not sure exactly what it is, minimalist music is simply music created with a minimal amount of material. So you might get a phrase or a couple of phrases which are expanded in some way or adapted or added to or subtracted from to create a larger piece of music. Now, phase music was discovered, I believe, rather than invented, but it was discovered and developed by Steve Reich back in the 1960s. Now, this is long before we had computers, and most electronic music was developed using tape and tape loops and cutting and splicing tapes. Now, Steve Reich was experimenting with tape loops, and he had two loops of identical material which he played back on two separate tape machines. Now, due to the very slight imperfections in the mechanics of these tape machines, the tapes ran at very slightly different speeds, creating a phased effect. So if you imagine this is one machine and this is another machine, and these are the start of the tape loops, if they started at the same time, you would hope they would run in parallel like that, but because they did not run at exactly the same speed, one tape loop would run slightly faster than the other, and so the tape loops would run out of phase. So when it got halfway, it would run back into phase, so they would perform a complete loop, if you like, and this creates some really interesting rhythmic patterns and musical patterns. Now, if you want to know more about minimalist music and phase music, I will leave links to wiki articles in the description. And if you want to hear what the professionals can do, they contain suggested pieces you might want to listen to by Steve Reich and other composers. Now, although the technique I'm going to show you how to do is very simple and easy and fast, the core piece of music, the minimal part of the music, offers a massive scope for experimentation. Now, as I am explaining how to do the process, I will take a little bit of time to throw out some ideas and suggestions and hints and tips that you might want to consider when you're creating your own minimal phase music. So let's head over to the music machine and get started. So here we are in Cubase, my current DAW of choice, and the first thing we have to do is to record a little phrase or riff or motif that we are going to use to phase. Now, I'm basically going to run through the process in more or less real time, just cutting out the ums and ahs, although I have recorded my little riff just because it takes a few minutes and it's a pretty boring process for you to sit through. However, I will show you what I've done and explain exactly why I have done it. I have used what I call a percussive melodic sound, in this case a piano, which is coming from HALion, which comes with Cubase Pro. You can use any sound you like, of course, but I'm using what I call a percussive melodic sound for two reasons. The first is that the percussive aspect of the sound will produce a range of different rhythms as the piece phases, and also the melodic note aspect will produce different notes and little runs of notes as the piece phases, which we shall see when we get around to playing it. Now, I've created a very simple one bar pattern. I'll just get rid of that. Here it is, and it's basically a C chord arpeggiated and then a B flat chord, so I might as well play it. So that's the riff, and you can see in the key editor here I have quantized the heck out of it. It is 100% on the beat, and I have also set the velocities to the same value, so this is as robotic a riff as you are likely to find. Now, if you were playing this for real, or you were playing this live, you would probably accent the first beat and the fifth beat. So if I play this in a very exaggerated form, we might play something like this. Now you will hear as we play the phased results that because of the phasing, there are natural accents, if you like, which come out through the phasing. So if you put your own accents in, you will get a slightly different effect. Now, as I say, this is just for demonstration purposes, so you can see the result of phasing. But by all means, record the piece naturally, use human timings, all sorts of things you can try. The other thing to note here is that I have used mainly eighth notes. The last note is a quarter note. Runs of notes like this seem to work pretty well with phase music, but again, you can experiment with different phrases, different note lengths, and so on. And you'll hear again as we play the finished result that the notes interweave and interlock in a very nice and interesting and pleasing way. Now, once we have our riff or motif, the next thing we have to do is to convert this into an audio track. Now, I'm sure most DAWs, I'm not familiar with any other DAW really other than Cubase, but I'm sure most DAWs have a function to convert their soft instruments into audio tracks. If not, we do need audio for this, and I'll explain why in a second. If not, all you need to do is record the riff as an audio track, and there you go. So in Cubase, this is called Render and Place. It's probably available from one of these menus, but I like to use as many shortcuts as I can remember. There are dozens of the things in Cubase. So if you hold down Shift and right click on a part, you get a pop-up menu, and there is Render in Place. So if we select that, Cubase very helpfully produces an audio version and puts it on an audio track. Now, we don't need the MIDI part, but rather than delete it, we can just mute it so we can come back to it and edit it and change it and create other interesting phased riffs. So this is the audio part, which is great. And the next thing we have to do is to duplicate this. We have to create another track. And again, this is easy to do in Cubase. If you select the track and right click on it, there is a duplicate track function. So there we have two identical phrases. Now, in an ideal phrase composition world, what we would be able to do would be to play one track at one tempo and the other track at a different tempo to simulate the two different speeds of the original tape machine. Now in Cubase, this whole thing, this arrangement window, this is called a project, and a project can only have one tempo, so we cannot set two different tracks to two different tempos, or is that tempi? Now I suspect most DAWs are the same, but if you know of a DAW which can play two different tracks at two different tempos, then please leave a comment in the comment section, because that would be Phase Composer's dream machine. Anyway, it's not too difficult to do what we have to do here. So what we need to do is to make one of these audio parts play back at a different speed to the other one, and we do this through the time stretch function. So again, in Cubase, if you hold down Shift, select the part, right click, we want the second option, Processes, which has an expandable menu, and it is the option right at the bottom, Time Stretch. Now this pops up Cubase's offline processing window. We're not really interested in this section. I'm not going to go into that now, but on the right here we see details about the piece of audio which we have selected. Now my eyes are not very good, so I'm going to switch on the magnifier so I can see what's going on a little bit better, and you will be able to see what's going on a little bit better too. So what I'm going to do is to compress this. I've been here before. This is already set to 99%, and you can of course experiment with different ratios. 99% reduction or 101% expansion will create a piece around about 3.5 minutes long if it's just one bar long. Obviously if it's 2 bars long, it's going to be twice as long, and so on, but this is a good value to start with. So if we click apply, and then we get a little box asking if we want to apply this to the actual audio on the disc or to create a new part, and of course we want to create a new part, so we want a new version. So we can quit this now, and if we zoom in on these two parts, you will see with any luck that the second part is just a little bit shorter than the original. That means it will play exactly the same riff, although only in a shorter amount of time. Effectively, it's playing it at a faster tempo. So we can get rid of that now and zoom back out. So the final stage is simply to copy these parts to themselves to create a track. And if we select this one, now you can copy and drag this, but you're going to have to create around 100 or maybe 200, 400, 500 copies of this, so it's going to be a little bit time consuming. However, Cubase has a really neat feature called duplicate, which you can access by holding down Shift and pressing the right mouse button, and there it is, and that has created a duplicate of itself, which is very handy and very convenient. However, even selecting that 100 or 200 times is quite time consuming. So Cubase very helpfully has a keyboard shortcut, which is Control and D. It's probably Option D on the Mac. So with the part selected, I will hold down Control and press D, and you can see it is getting copied to itself. So I will duplicate this several times and go back to the beginning and select the second part, hold down Control, press D, and duplicate that. So there we go. So that's it. Now, I know I've been talking a lot, but the actual process of converting MIDI to audio and time stretching it and then duplicating the tracks, this literally takes seconds. So I will now play the results of this piece of phase music. Now, I have actually created a very slightly enhanced version of this, which I will leave a link to in the description, and a card will pop up there, so you can go and check that out. I've had a little bit of reverb to it as well, just to make it glue the thing together. Reverb is a wonderful glue. But I'm going to just play through this as it is. It's dry, it hasn't been processed at all. So I'm going to play through this, and I'm just going to talk over the top of it a little bit. I'm just going to point out the different aspects of the phase process, so you can see and hear what is going on as the piece progresses. I'm not going to play all of it, just enough to give you a flavour of what phasing actually does. So here we go. So it starts off, both pieces are almost in the same tempo, so they sound pretty close. Now as the piece progresses, you will hear the notes sort of have a doubling effect, like a really fast slapback echo. And as the piece progresses even further, this slapback echo becomes a longer echo, and it becomes a sort of delay effect. And as the notes get pushed further and further back, you get a bit of a shuffle feel. And then the notes start to interweave, and you get little runs of different types of notes, which I think is really interesting and fascinating. So we get a combination of different rhythms and different melodic riffs. Okay, so I did play all the pieces that we actually copied, but this is about 35 bars long to get the piece to phase completely out of phase and then completely into phase again. It's probably going to take about 100 or so bars. So there we go. So that's essentially how to make quick and easy and hopefully interesting phase music. So I hope you found that interesting and useful and enjoyable and fun, or any one of the above. And if you did, please consider subscribing to the channel, because it does help and encourage me to produce more videos, which I hope you will enjoy. So if you hit the big red button and ring the bell and click the big thumb, I'd be very grateful. But as always, I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos. So for that, thank you very much indeed. And if you do produce any phase music which you like, then please do leave a link to it in the comments section below. I'd be really interested to see what you come up with. That's it for this video. I will see you again in the next one.